Being lucky enough to grow up in the 1980s, I was a kid who was exposed to awesome toys, and I loved playing with toys. But by the time I reached 13 and my rabbi declared that I was a man, well, I was still into toys. But since I was now legally an adult, Jewishly an adult, okay, well, that made me an adult collector, right? And it's what I am today. I still buy toys. I'm happily married. I have a child. I have a career, but I love toys. Probably like a lot of you. And a big reason I started this channel is I've been very blessed that a large portion of my career in marketing and product design has been in the toy industry. And I've been lucky enough also to have actually worked on toy lines that I actively collected. And been able to work with people that I once looked up to as just shining stars who are now my coworkers. Crazy. And one of the benefits about being a toy collector working in the toy industry is that if you want a figure that doesn't exist, well, sometimes you can make that happen. Not always, but occasionally a commandy gets thrown your way. Most people who want a figure that isn't available have to turn to customizing, which takes a lot of patience, a lot of skill, and a lot of talent. Now, I have a firm philosophy in life. I don't do things I'm not skilled at. I don't do my own taxes. I don't do my own plumbing. And I really don't do my own action figure modifications. There's some that I've been kind of forced to do because, I couldn't stand Adam Warlock without him having gold skin because he has gold skin. Why did this version not have gold skin? Or I had to modify Darkhawk because I love Darkhawk, but the Marvel Legends Darkhawk just, wasn't the one I wanted. I had to cut off those wings and paint the amulet red and fix the neck a little bit. I tried my hand at doing custom figures for Savage Dragon, which is my favorite comic book. I made that Brainy Ape out of a Hulk, and I made that Powerhouse out of a Captain America. And there's also I think there's a Horde back there that's made out of that bee guy, Swarm. I'm not that talented. There are customizers out there who can sculpt, who can paint, who can make figures articulate, just like the real thing. They're just as talented as professional toy makers. I'm not one of them, and I absolutely look up and admire people who can do this, and there's no limit to the number of guides and online videos that will teach you the art of customizing. This is not one of them, because as you could see from my feeble attempts a few slides ago, I am not skilled at this, so therefore I'm not going to teach other people how to do this. Lots of YouTubers have already done this. And you can see the work of a lot of talented fans and creators online making toys that look like they could have been produced by a toy company. All right, so for those of us who don't have this ability, there are other ways, and one of them is in the hands of the toy companies. And this is something that I really strove to do while I was at Mattel and other companies, and that was what I would think of as paying off long term. So, as an example, Strobo here, an obscure character from Masters of the Universe Classics. And while you can't see it in the package, there is a second head as one of the accessories. Actually, he doesn't come with this gun, so probably a bad image that I chose. But he does come with that cool green orb thingy on the red. Anyway, the point is yes, you'll notice that second head doesn't seem to match him. It doesn't match his skin tone. It doesn't match his lack of tattoos. That's because this head is not for Strobo. This head is for Zodak with a K. When we did Zodak, he was a straight repaint with some swapped up parts. We didn't have enough tooling budget to tool a head for him, like a maskless head. But by the time we got to Strobo, we had a little extra, and we included this head with a figure with the idea that if you own Zodak, now you could upgrade his head. It was kind of like reverse engineering. Actually, it's nothing like reverse engineering, but it was intentional. So we wanted to pay off long-term collectors by including pieces that they could then use to upgrade older toys. We did this quite a lot. We did this with Faker, where a robot version or like battle-damaged head came with a Skeletor New Adventures figure, and speaking of Skeletor, a character Demo Man came with an alternate Skeletor head, which you could then upgrade your original Skeletor to make him look like the early prototype version, or the concept art. All right, so besides this one way, there's even another way to customize if you don't have the art ability. But you have to be...
Oh, yes, he's such a clever little boy.
All right, so let's look at an example of this. A few years ago, Walgreens put out Marvel Legends Fantastic Four figures in their 1960s original blue suits with the black collar. The reason I had to go to Walgreens is, well, at the time, 20th Century Fox had movie rights and blah, blah, blah. So years later, we got modern versions when the Fantastic Four, being Extra 20th Century Fox, was bought by Disney. They could get released at major retail. Now, I love the Fantastic Four, and I like both of these outfits and looks, but I found that, especially with Susan Storm and the Human Torch, swapping them around a little bit made them look actually more accurate. So the Human Torches, I just put them with the other group, but with Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, I swapped their heads. I found the quote-unquote modern head actually looked a lot more 1960s and looked great on that body. And then vis-a-vis the original Walgreens head looked much better on the modern or 90s body. So I actually thought this might have been intentional as well, that this was Hasbro kind of trying to, make the best possible set. And I reached out to a buddy of mine, Bobby Vala, who does the Valaverse figures, but unfortunately, because of the whole retro blasting thing, I found out he's not talking to me. He actually texted me to tell me he's ghosting me. And I think the whole point of ghosting is that you don't tell someone you're doing it. But anyway, so yeah, unfortunately, he wasn't able to provide any insight, but I think maybe it was intentional. Now, other times, toy companies will just give you the second head right in the package, like with these NECA Back to the Future figures, and you can pick the head you want, and that customized that way. Other times, again, going back to being clever, well, like this Wolverine is a combination of the version that came with the Sentinel and I think the maskless head that came in the retro version. So it's two different Wolverines kit bashed together, but the pegs work because it's the same body. Another cool example of this, and this one I totally got from Modeling Behavior, so one of the really cool Marvel Legends fan sites on YouTube, and they suggested creating a Mary Jane figure if you wanted one using the head that came with Gwen Stacy. So here we have Mary Jane's head on Gwen Stacy's body, but buying a second X-Men scientist lady action figure, well, without the lab coat and lab coat arms and popping on that Mary Jane head, bam, perfect Mary Jane. Other times, accessories that come with figures, swapping them around look better with different versions. So movie or live action Scarlet Witch, I swapped her effects, the blast effects, with comic book version, and I actually think that looks a lot better. But again, that's just me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one to figure out moving around blast effects. I'm just trying to point out an example. Arming up figures with accessories that don't belong with them has a way of personalizing a collection for you. Here's Mighty Spector holding Obi-Wan's lightsaber and Marty McFly's hoverboard. Did he ever have these in content? No, but I like it. Here is the Mandalorian, and I snapped on some blast jetpack effects from Iron Man, but they look perfect, and they actually fit the holes in his jetpack, so awesome, because he didn't come with effects to make him fly. Another one is Kazar here in the back of my X-Men set. I think that staff came with a Lord of the Rings figure, maybe? God, I don't remember, but it looks awesome with him. And this blast effect I gave to Firestar came with the King Sphinx figure from Power Rangers. I bought it because it had hieroglyphics on the chest. It's the only Power Rangers figure I own, but a great use of the blast effect. And of course I had to give old Jedi Luke his actual green lightsaber because I don't believe that he, force meditated himself to death. He lived on, and he has a green lightsaber, so that's what Luke looks like in my continuity. And here I threw Daenerys Targaryen on a Lord of the Rings fell beast, the flying beast. Yeah, it's not Drogon, but, it works. And yes, that is a porg in the fell beast's mouth. So mixing and matching between lines, has comical and interesting fun effects. Here's my Sherlock Holmes 221B flat playset. And while they never made a Watson figure, I used the figure from Black Panther that the same actor played. And, I just used a little forced perspective and pushed the Sherlock figure to the back and the Watson figure forward. And, hey, it totally works as a Watson for the BBC series, even though we'll never get an action figure of that. And the figures are an inch apart. So, yes, I had a ton of fun working in the toy industry, but it really is my experience as a lifelong collector that has kind of opened me up to the idea of moving around figure parts and trying to create the optimal version, because we're not all going to be able to just, completely customize the way some very, very talented people online and in actual reality, not the metaverse, the thing that we actually exist in, reality. So yeah, I can't do this, but a lot of people can. If you can't, I absolutely encourage head swapping and arm swapping, blast swapping, and I hope more toy companies do things like this, including parts intended for other figures to pay off long-term collectors. I think it's a great way to show that you really support your fan base, and you know they're in it for the long haul. And if they could upgrade an older figure, all the better. I hope you enjoyed this video. The best way to show support for the channel is to share it with others. Thank you for doing that. Please leave any questions or comments below, and I will try to get back to as many as I can. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.